I never imagined that the most defining moment of my life would find me standing alone on a glittering sidewalk, mascara streaking down my cheeks, while my family celebrated behind glass walls as if I didn't exist. My name is Valerie Sanders, and for 32 years, I've been the invisible daughter in a family obsessed with appearances and profit a shadow beside my perfect younger sister, a silent observer at my own birthday dinners, a guest in the house where I grew up. Tonight was supposed to be different. I arrived at my parents' new luxury car showroom in Detroit, clutching a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, they would finally see me not as a disappointment, not as an afterthought, but as their daughter. Instead, my mother pressed a cleaning rag into my hand. My father summoned security, and my sister laughed as I was escorted out, too cheap for their world of polished chrome and crystal chandeliers. But what none of them realized was that this night, the night of my greatest humiliation, would also be the night I found my voice, my courage, and the strength to walk away from the people who never truly saw me at all. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Valerie Sanders stared at the cream-colored invitation in her hands, the embossed gold lettering catching the afternoon light streaming through her design studio windows. After 5 years of minimal contact with her family, receiving a formal invitation to the grand opening of Sanders Luxury Motors felt surreal. Sanders Motors expanding to luxury market, she read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. Grand opening of Rolls-Royce and Bentley showroom. Your presence requested. At 32, Valerie had built a successful interior design business from nothing, specializing in sustainable luxury that told stories rather than simply displaying wealth. Her modest studio in Detroit's Arts District was a testament to her philosophy, carefully curated pieces that balanced beauty with function, each item chosen for its meaning rather than its price tag. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Jensen Global Development, Alexander speaking, came the familiar voice of her husband. The invitation arrived, Valerie said without preamble. A pause. How are you feeling about it? Confused, hopeful, terrified. She sank into her favorite armchair, a vintage piece she'd restored herself. Part of me wants to believe this is an olive branch. Alex, maybe they've changed. Alexander Jensen, CEO of one of the world's largest sustainable development companies, had learned to navigate Valerie's complicated relationship with her family carefully. What does your gut tell you? That I need to find out for myself, even if it ends badly. At least I'll know I tried. I can reschedule Singapore if you want me there. Valerie considered this. Alexander's presence would certainly change the dynamic, but she needed to face her family on her own terms. No, I need to do this myself. Your government meetings are too important to postpone. That evening, as they shared dinner on their terrace, Valerie found herself lost in memories. Growing up as the overlooked daughter in a family obsessed with appearances and business success had left deep scars. While her younger sister Megan was groomed to inherit the family business, Valerie's passion for design was dismissed as playing house and arts and crafts. You know what the hardest part is, Valerie said, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. I still hope they'll see me, really see me, not just the version of me that fits their narrative. Alexander reached across the table and took her hand. Their inability to see your worth doesn't diminish it. Val, you've built something beautiful here, your business, your life, our relationship. That's real, regardless of their recognition. The week leading up to the event passed in a blur of nervous energy. Valerie found herself second-guessing every decision, from her outfit choice to whether she should attend at all. She finally settled on a navy blue dress that struck the perfect balance between elegant and understated professional, enough to command respect, but not so flashy as to invite criticism. Standing before her bedroom mirror the morning of the event, Valerie made a deliberate choice to leave her expensive jewelry at home. Her engagement ring, a stunning piece that balanced elegance with her practical nature, remained in its box. She wanted to be judged on her own merits, not her husband's wealth. "You look beautiful," Alexander said from behind her, his face tired from late-night conference calls with Singapore, but his attention fully focused on her. "And remember, you can leave anytime. Just text me if you need an emergency call." "I know." She turned to face him, drawing strength from his steady presence. "I love you for being willing to fly halfway around the world if I need you. I'd fly around the world twice if it meant protecting you from people who don't appreciate what they have." The drive to the showroom gave Valerie too much time to think. Memories surfaced unbidden: her 12th birthday celebration that became a party for Megan's math award, high school graduation where her parents left early for a business dinner, the Christmas she spent alone because her delayed flight wasn't worth waiting for. 3 times she nearly turned around. At one particularly long red light, she seriously contemplated calling the whole thing off. But something propelled her forward, perhaps the need for closure, or the stubborn hope that people could change. The showroom was located in Detroit's most exclusive shopping district, the renovated building gleaming with glass and chrome. Luxury vehicles filled the parking lot, and a red carpet led to the entrance where professionally dressed staff checked invitations. "Valerie Sanders," she said to the young man at the door, presenting her invitation. "The owner's daughter." His expression shifted immediately from polite professionalism to something approaching reverence. "Oh, Miss Sanders, your mother mentioned you might be attending. Please, go right in." The interior was a testament to opulence. Crystal chandeliers cast flattering light over gleaming vehicles, arranged like sculptures throughout the space. A string quartet played softly in one corner, barely audible over the murmur of Detroit's elite exchanging pleasantries and business cards. Valerie spotted her mother across the room, resplendent in a designer dress that probably cost more than Valerie's first car. Diane Sanders was laughing with a group of women whose jewelry could finance a small nation. When she saw Valerie approaching, her smile froze momentarily before reassembling itself into something polite but distant. "You made it," Diane said, air kissing near Valerie's cheek to avoid disturbing her makeup. Her eyes performed a quick assessment of Valerie's outfit, lingering briefly on her sensible heels. "You look appropriate. Not beautiful or lovely appropriate, as if Valerie had passed some minimum standard for public appearance. "Let me introduce you to the wives of your father's investors," Diane continued, already turning toward the group. "This is my daughter," she said to them, not bothering with Valerie's name or any details about her life. The next hour passed in a blur of discomfort. Robert Sanders, Valerie's father, acknowledged her presence with a brief handshake, his eyes constantly scanning the room for more important guests. "Glad you could make it," he said distractedly. "The governor might stop by later. Been working on that connection for months." Megan arrived fashionably late, making an entrance in a designer outfit that screamed new money. Her jewelry caught the light with every practiced gesture, diamonds flashing like warning signals. At 29, she had grown into the role of golden child with practiced ease. "Val," she exclaimed, embracing her sister with theatrical warmth. "You actually came. I wasn't sure you would, considering how busy you must be with your decorating business." The dismissive tone was subtle but unmistakable. Valerie forced a smile. "It's interior design, Megan. And yes, I've been quite busy. We just finished a community center project that I'm really proud of. How nice, Megan replied, already losing interest. Daddy's been telling everyone about our expansion plans, 3 more locations next year, and I'll be overseeing the customer experience protocols. When the family gathered for photos, Diane positioned Valerie at the edge of the frame, a barely included afterthought. Stand over here, Valerie, she directed, physically moving her away from the center. The lighting is better for the main family. The main family, as if Valerie were some distant cousin twice removed. As the evening progressed, Valerie found herself increasingly isolated. Servers with champagne trays somehow never made it to her corner of the room. When she overheard her mother telling a guest, "My younger daughter runs our business operations. The older one works in decorating or something." The dismissive wave of Diane's hand reduced Valerie's career to a hobby. The breaking point came when Diane approached her with something in her hand, a microfiber cleaning cloth. "Make yourself useful," Diane whispered, her voice barely audible over the ambient music. "Some of the display vehicles need polishing. Fingerprints on the black paint." Valerie stared at her mother in disbelief. "You want me to clean cars at your grand opening? You're just standing around anyway," Diane hissed, her eyes flicking over Valerie's dress. "At least this way, you'd be contributing something. Besides, you've already got a stain. It's not like you can make that outfit any worse. I'm not your staff. Mom, I'm your daughter. I came to support you and Dad, not to be the help. You're embarrassing us by hovering like staff, but not actually doing anything," Diane snapped, her voice rising slightly. "Either make yourself presentable and sociable with the right people, or make yourself useful behind the scenes. Those are your options." Robert noticed their exchange and strode over, his professional smile dropping as he approached. "What's the problem now?" he demanded, keeping his voice low but intense. "Nothing, Robert," Diane replied, just suggesting Valerie might be more comfortable helping the detail team since she's not really mingling. "I didn't come here to be your janitor," Valerie said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "I came because you invited me, as family." Megan approached, sighing theatrically for the benefit of nearby guests. "Is she making a scene again?" she asked no one in particular, rolling her eyes. "Some things never change." Robert's jaw tightened. "Valerie, we're in the middle of the most important business event of our careers. Whatever issue you're having right now needs to wait." "The issue I'm having," Valerie said, no longer bothering to whisper, "is being treated like an unwelcome stranger by my own family." "You're the one who chose to distance yourself," Robert countered. "You've never supported this business or shown any interest in our success. And now you show up underdressed, unconnected, trying to ruin our big night out of spite." Megan scoffed loudly. "She's clearly too cheap to belong in a place like this. Look at her no jewelry, boring shoes, department store dress." She turned to Diane. "I told you inviting her was a mistake. She doesn't fit our brand image." The words hit Valerie like physical blows. Around them, guests pretended not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. The humiliation was complete and public. Robert's patience visibly snapped. "If you can't support this family properly, you should leave," he said flatly. With a subtle nod, he summoned a security guard who had been stationed near the entrance. "Please escort my daughter out," he told the guard. "She's not feeling well." The security guard, a young man who looked deeply uncomfortable with the situation, approached hesitantly. "Ma'am, if you'll come with me, please." In that moment, surrounded by luxury and wealth, Valerie had never felt more worthless. The security guard maintained a respectful distance as he guided her toward the exit, his discomfort evident in his averted eyes. I'm sorry about this, ma'am, he murmured. Just doing my job. I understand, Valerie replied, maintaining as much dignity as possible while being escorted out of her own family's event. Can I get my purse first? It's on the side table near the main display. Before he could respond, Megan appeared with exaggerated concern. I'll take care of her things, she assured the guard. Best if this is handled quickly and quietly. The message was clear: get Valerie out fast, minimize the disruption. Guests pretended not to stare as she was led toward the door, their conversations growing hushed, then resuming with increased animation once she passed. Robert's voice carried across the showroom. Family problems, nothing to worry about. Now about those import tariffs on luxury vehicles. Outside, Valerie stumbled slightly as emotion finally overwhelmed her composure. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks as she stood alone on the sidewalk, the evening air cool against her flushed skin. Without her purse, she couldn't even leave her car keys. Phone and wallet were all inside. Fortunately, she'd slipped her phone into her dress pocket after texting Alexander earlier. With trembling fingers, she called him. I'm at the airport, he answered immediately. Just landed. What's happening? They kicked me out, she managed between quiet sobs. Security escorted me out. My own father had me removed like some disruptive stranger. The shock in his voice mirrored her own disbelief. Where are you now? Outside the showroom. They wouldn't let me get my purse. My keys are inside. I'm getting in the car now. Don't go anywhere. I'll be there in 20 minutes, traffic permitting. Okay, she whispered, suddenly exhausted by the evening's emotional toll. Valerie, Alexander's voice softened. I love you, and I'm so sorry this happened. Stay strong for just a little longer. 15 minutes later, Valerie heard it before she saw it, the distinctive purr of a powerful engine, smoother than standard luxury vehicles. A gleaming black Tesla Model S turned into the driveway, its sleek lines reflecting the showroom lights. Alexander stepped out, immaculate in a bespoke suit despite having just completed a 17-hour flight. His eyes scanned the entrance until he spotted her, and his expression immediately softened. He walked directly to her, ignoring the stares from inside the showroom, and took her hands in his. Are you okay? He asked, searching her face with genuine concern. I am now, she said, meaning it completely. He pulled her into a gentle embrace, mindful of her stained dress, and whispered, I'm so sorry I wasn't here sooner. You're here now, she replied, drawing strength from his presence. That's what matters. After a moment, Alexander stepped back and looked toward the showroom entrance. I think we should retrieve your purse, don't you? Valerie nodded, straightening her shoulders. Yes, let's do that. They walked arm in arm back into the showroom, his presence beside her like armor. A hush fell over the nearest guest as they entered, rippling outward until the entire space grew quiet, except for the background music. Robert stood frozen near the central display, champagne glass halted midway to his lips. Diane's practiced smile faltered as she registered Alexander's presence, her eyes darting between them in confusion. Megan's expression shifted from shock to calculation in the space of a heartbeat. Robert recovered first, setting down his glass and striding forward with an outstretched hand. Welcome. You must be. His voice faltered as recognition dawned. Alexander Jensen. Alexander replied coolly. CEO of Jensen Global Development and Valerie's husband. Diane materialized at Robert's side, her smile now dazzling. Mr. Jensen, what a wonderful surprise. We weren't expecting you tonight. Welcome to Sanders Luxury Motors. I understand my wife was asked to leave, Alexander said, his tone pleasant but firm. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. A terrible misunderstanding. Diane agreed quickly. Family communication issues. You know how it can be. Please, join our VIP group. We were just discussing expansion opportunities. Alexander's hand remained firmly at the small of Valerie's back. Actually, we're just here for Valerie's purse. She mentioned it was left inside. Megan stepped forward, suddenly eager to be helpful. I have it right here. I was keeping it safe. She presented the handbag with a flourish, her eyes never leaving Alexander's face. So nice to finally meet my brother-in-law. Valerie tells us so little about your work. Alexander accepted the purse with a polite nod and handed it to Valerie. Thank you. Robert's business instincts kicked in. Your showroom is impressive, Alexander said, glancing around. We've actually been looking at expanding our company fleet. Currently, we maintain about 30 luxury vehicles for executive transport. Robert's eyes widened. 30, well, we would certainly be interested in discussing fleet options. I could set up a meeting for next week. That won't be necessary, Alexander replied smoothly. We already have appointments with several other dealerships tomorrow. But thank you for the offer. As Valerie checked her purse, confirming all contents were present, she felt a strange calm settle over her. The pretense was finally over. Her family had shown her exactly who they were, and she was done pretending it didn't matter. I think there's something I need to say, she announced, her voice carrying clearly in the hushed showroom. All eyes turned to her. Alexander squeezed her hand gently, offering silent support. For 32 years, I've tried to earn your love and respect, she began, addressing her parents directly. I've excused your dismissive comments about my career, your lack of interest in my achievements, your constant comparisons to Megan. I told myself you were just focused on business, that you'd come around eventually. The showroom was completely silent now, even the string quartet having stopped playing. But tonight, you've made it crystal clear that I'm not your daughter. I'm an embarrassment you tolerate when convenient. You handed me a cleaning rag and told me to make myself useful. You had security escort me out like a disruptive stranger. Diane started to speak, but Valerie held up a hand. I'm not finished. I've built a successful business from nothing. I've created beautiful spaces that bring joy to people's lives. I've found love with a man who sees my worth, even when my own family can't. I don't need your approval to validate my existence. She looked around the room at the assembled guests, many of whom were watching with obvious discomfort. I came here tonight hoping for reconciliation, hoping you'd changed. Instead, you've given me the greatest gift possible, clarity. I finally understand that your inability to see my value says nothing about my worth and everything about your limitations. Alexander stepped forward slightly, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable authority. Since we're being honest, I should probably introduce myself properly. I'm Alexander Jensen, CEO of Jensen Global Development. We specialize in sustainable luxury developments across 3 continents. Robert's expression began to change as the implications sank in. We're currently evaluating several projects in the Detroit metropolitan area, Alexander continued, including a mixed-use development that would encompass this entire commercial district. The color drained from Robert's face. This district, we've been in preliminary discussions with the City Planning Commission about revitalizing this area. The project would include luxury retail spaces, high-end residential units, and commercial offices. We typically work with local businesses that align with our values of respect, integrity, and community partnership. Diane's smile had become frozen, her eyes darting between Alexander and Robert. Of course, Alexander added with a slight smile. We always prefer to work with businesses that treat all people with dignity and respect. It's one of our core values. Megan finally found her voice. We We had no idea about your development plans. No reason you would, Alexander replied pleasantly. We prefer to keep our preliminary discussions confidential until we're ready to move forward. But after tonight's events, I think we'll be exploring partnerships with other dealerships in the area. The implications hit Robert like a physical blow. Not only had he humiliated his daughter, but he'd potentially cost his business the opportunity of a lifetime. I think we have everything we need, Valerie said, her voice steady and clear. She looked at her family one last time, feeling neither anger nor sadness, just a profound sense of closure. As they turned to leave, Robert pressed his business card into Alexander's hand with desperate urgency. If you reconsider about any business opportunities, my direct line is on there. Alexander pocketed the card with a non-committal smile, his other hand never leaving the small of Valerie's back as they walked toward the exit. Megan hurried after them. Let me give you my card too. I handle our corporate accounts personally. She fumbled in her clutch, producing a glossy business card embossed with the Sanders Luxury Motors logo. Thank you, Alexander said politely, accepting the card without slowing their exit. Diane called after them, her voice strained. We should have dinner soon. Call me, Valerie. They walked out with dignity, neither rushing nor lingering. The perfect picture of composure. The uniformed driver opened the doors of the Tesla, and they slipped into the quiet interior. Only when they were safely moving away from the showroom did Valerie finally let out the breath she'd been holding. How do you feel? Alexander asked, taking her hand. Free, she said, surprised by the truth of it. For the first time in my life, I feel completely free of their expectations and disappointments. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. What you did in there took incredible courage. I couldn't have done it without you, she replied. Not just tonight, but all these years. You've shown me what it feels like to be truly valued. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights blurring past the windows. Finally, Alexander spoke again. You know, there really is a development project in that district. Valerie looked at him in surprise. Really? Really. And after tonight, I can guarantee Sanders Motors won't be part of it. Epilogue. 6 months later. Valerie stood in her expanded design studio, reviewing plans for her latest project, the interior design for Jensen Global Development's new Detroit headquarters. Her business had grown exponentially, fueled by referrals from clients who appreciated her philosophy of sustainable luxury and authentic expression. The phone rang, displaying her mother's number. Valerie let it go to voicemail, as she had for the past 6 months. She'd listened to the first few messages' awkward attempts at reconciliation that focused more on business opportunities than genuine remorse, but eventually stopped bothering. Alexander appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. How's the headquarters design coming? Beautifully, she said, accepting the coffee gratefully. I think you're going to love the executive conference room. The sustainable materials we source tell an incredible story. I love everything you create, he said simply. But more than that, I love watching you create it. You're in your element here. Valerie looked around her studio, her sanctuary, her kingdom, her proof that success didn't require anyone else's approval. You know what the best part is? What's that? I finally understand that family isn't just who you're born to. It's who makes space for you to be authentically yourself. Sometimes those are the same people. Sometimes they're not. And that's okay. Alexander smiled, pulling her into his arms. That's the most profound thing I've ever heard. I learned it from someone who shows me every day what it means to be truly seen and valued. Outside, Detroit hummed with life and possibility. Inside, Valerie Sanders Jensen had found something more valuable than all the luxury cars in the world: the unshakable knowledge of her own worth, and the love of people who saw it too. The invitation to Sanders Luxury Motors' grand opening had promised an evening of luxury and family celebration. Instead, it had delivered something far more precious: the gift of clarity, the strength of truth, and the freedom that comes from finally letting go of the need for approval from those incapable of giving it. In the end, Valerie had found her real family not in blood relations, but in the people who celebrated her successes, supported her dreams, and loved her exactly as she was. And that, she realized, was the greatest luxury of all. As the city lights blurred past the car window, I realized that the weight I'd carried for years had finally lifted. My family's approval, once the currency I chased at any cost, no longer defined my worth. I had found my voice in the very place I was meant to be silent, and in doing so, discovered a freedom I never thought possible. The scars of old wounds may never fully fade, but I now wear them as proof of survival, not shame. I have learned that true family is not measured by blood or shared last names, but by those who stand beside you when the world turns cold. In the warmth of Alexander's hand, in the laughter of friends who became my chosen kin, I found a home more real than any childhood memory. Tonight, as we drove away from the glittering showroom and all it represented, I looked ahead, not back. The future, uncertain and unwritten, no longer frightened me. For the first time, I understood my story was never about being accepted by others, but about accepting myself. And as the city faded behind us, I knew whatever roads I chose from here, I would walk them with my head held high, unafraid, and finally, gloriously, enough.